So, Julie,
Wedding.
I wanted to listen to some Joni Mitchell.
Why would you ever want to do that?
I don't know. I just had this craving for, that song California or something. But, I can't find her on Spotify. What happened?
Well, her.
I mean,
back in September of 2021, her a company by the name of Reservoir,
right? Yeah.
She signed with Reservoir to administer her publishing catalog, and most likely what happened was JP. Reservoir went to Spotify and said, "We would like to have you pay us a lot of money for our iconic client, Joni Mitchell." At which point Spotify said, "Who? Get out of here. We're not doing that." So that's why she's no longer.
So is that what was going on with Neil Young, you think?
I would say it's probably the same thing.
Well, so Neil Young,
it always has to do with business.
Right. So he signed his catalog over to a guy named Merculitis.
Right.
Some, name like that. And this guy started a company, and I forget what it's called, but basically it's a music management company, and it's all about, okay, and here's something else I wanted to mention about that. It's all about understanding how iconic pop songs can be, and how much of an investment possibility or vehicle they can be for both investors and for media. Okay, so if you have a catalog of hit makers, those songs can live forever because they've now become commoditized. And so that's the business model for this company. And so we are never going to ever, not that we're going to in the first place, but we will never stop hearing the Big Chill soundtrack. I'm sorry, but that's just the way it is, because it makes too much money as an investment. And that's why Neil Young signed over his catalog to this dude. Okay, so the thing is Steve, Spotify doesn't host content. What they do is they distribute it by means through an RSS feed, through MP3 files. Okay, so they distribute it out as a streaming to people who are consumers who pay $9.99 a month.
My God!
Wow. So what's going on? So we are not on our.
No, we're still live.
Okay. Well, we're not on our regular Facebook page.
No, we are being. I just got another notification that we're being restricted again.
Wow. What is a struggling channel platform to do?
I don't know.
Anyway, so
roll over and die,
so this whole business with Neil Young complaining to Spotify about Joe Rogan is all just smoke and mirrors. It's all bullshit. Joe Rogan is the official whipping boy. And that's all he is.
Joe Rogan makes a lot of money and increases in popularity every time a baby boomer who is no longer living in their glory days attacks him.
Right.
So now we have a black screen.
Nice.
Can you guys see us? Because apparently
we have two viewers.
I'm seeing a black screen. Yeah. So can you guys?
So Juniper says yes, but I'm not sure. I think that was about
That was from before.
That was from before.
Can you guys see us? Okay. Can you hear us and see us? Because according to my feed, there is no feed.
Wow. Time to leave Facebook, I guess.
Well, I mean, I think it's just, I don't know. Okay, so now we're back.
We're back. Okay.
Okay, so you guys can. All right, you have to understand that as I'm following and sharing our feed around, I'm getting all sorts of messages from Facebook that says you have been temporarily blocked. We have disrupted your video. You cannot be seen. Like, I'm getting all these messages. So if you guys can still see us, then Facebook is just, announcing these things to me as the administrator to try to throw me off. So I guess the whole point is
is to fuck with us.
It's to fuck with people.
So let's just move on.
Okay.
So Joe Rogan is, he's the horseman, and he's the whipping boy, and he's the guy that everybody wants to complain about. Well, it does him good to do that. Spotify doesn't care. Spotify's, here's something about Spotify, and we were looking into it, but we don't do audio podcasts so much. We do them on Facebook, but they're pretty off the cuff. Spotify does not host the content; they stream it. So we would have to go through another streaming service, audio streaming service, in order to get onto Spotify, or we'd have to like load up our audios up on our website and then provide an RSS code, which I don't know how to do that. So, so we won't be on Spotify. However, I was looking at their platform and their rules about content, and they're pretty open to a lot of things. One of the things, though, they say you cannot do is hate speech, which, okay, that's fine. But what is hate speech exactly? It's kind of something that, most of us, well, hang on a second. Hate speech, we all have something in our minds of like what hate speech is, right?
Right, but the little girl in the vestibule and the father.
Well, we'll get there. But what I'm trying to say is hate speech is, it depends. We all have an idea of what hate speech is, but that's never been really truly defined as to what it is. So it could be, something could be taken down as hate speech when it wasn't hate speech at all. But depending on the rules or the rules of the organization that are placing these on the well, okay. Yeah, hate speech equals censorship. That's an easy way to say it. But I think what's more important is that we all have an idea of what hate speech is, and using a very vague term like that helps to not define what it actually is, and so it allows for that censorship to take place, because there is no regular understood meaning that everybody understands is, like the benchmark for what hate speech is, right? Mm-hmm. Because my feeling around hate speech is different than maybe yours or Spotify's or YouTube or whoever, right? I'm pretty sensitive to it, but I'm not going to think that because, I said something off the cuff. Well, okay, I'm not even going to get into what I define it as, because it's just that opens this can of worms, and that's the problem with the idea of what hate speech is. So anyway, going back to Spotify, they, that's one of the things that they rule out. But it's, for the most part, it's pretty open. But we've been now kicked off of Linktree. We've been kicked off of Vimeo, which we actually paid for to be a part of, and they didn't say that we were using hate speech, but they did use other vague language, like we were talking about things that would lead children to hurt themselves or some bullshit like that. And it was like, wow, what is it we said that did that? I have no idea. But see, that's the whole point. A lot of this language around restrictions on speech are vague, deliberately vague, so that they can decide what it is that they want, and it could be the flavor of the month, right? Mm-hmm. So you were mentioning a little girl. So did you bring her up on Twitter? How did you want to play her? Oh, well, let me see here. I've got some video that I can bring up, and if I can find my menu, there it is. So yeah, so there's a story about a little girl, not little. I mean, she's like a teen, I guess. She's like a preteen teen, who who went to school without a mask in New York, because right now you don't have to wear a mask in school. Well, however, no one has to. Well, no one has to, but the schools now are being very fascist about it, and there's a couple stories about this. And this girl was stuck in a vestibule for like 9 hours. No, 5 hours. 5 hours. Okay, well, let's roll the clip. Yeah, so let's play this.
How long did you have to sit in that vestibule? How long were you in that vestibule?
Since 9.
You've been in that vestibule since 9 a.m.?
Yes.
You sat right in here since 9 a.m.?
Yeah.
Did they come to offer you a drink?
No.
Did they come to offer you food?
No.
Did you ask to use the bathroom?
Yes, but
You were denied that, correct?
Catch walked me outside. He walked me all the way around.
He walked you around the building
Yeah.
to use the bathroom?
Yeah. In
Okay.
the cold.
In the cold?
Well, yeah.
What, do you have to go in the outhouse?
No. I went inside, but
Okay.
he made me walk all the way around because I wouldn't wear a mask.
Okay, so you've been in here for 6 hours.
Yes.
Okay. What time is it right now?
1:41.
Say it louder.
1:41.
My daughter has been in here since 9 a.m. It is now 1:41 p.m. without access to food, water, or a bathroom. Let that be on public record. Let's go.
Okay. So,
Okay.
yeah.
All right. Did you go back to chat? Did you guys see that? Did you guys see that video of that preteen and the story behind it? Let us know if you were able to see the video that we played. Let us know. Okay.
So this has been going around on Twitter, and it's about a little girl who is basically, she went to school without a mask on. She was forced to stay in the vestibule, which is basically that space between the antechamber, right? That space between outside and inside that allows, the cold to stay out. Okay, so Michelle said yes.
Okay. So you
Okay.
did see the video. That's
and,
good.
And she was stuck in there, so it's colder in there than it is outside or inside, but it's not as warm it's not as cold as outside. But still, she stood there. She didn't have a place to sit. She
Right.
didn't have any access to water. She didn't have access to food. She didn't have access to the bathroom unless she asked for it. And then they walked her around the building to go into the bathroom.
Right.
Right.
So I want to address something that we've heard our entire life. Oh, big deal. Just wear a mask and stop being a little princess and stop causing a scene and stop drawing attention to yourself. That was a lot of the response that this child got, and a lot of the response that, can we put on chat, that the father got as well. And so the response to that is actually by making attempts to humiliate her and target her and marginalize her and use her as an example. The establishment, the school administrator, the teachers, whoever is in charge of enforcing an unlawful countermeasure with just putting a mask on the face, those are the people that are causing the child to get unnecessary attention. They're causing it. She's not. She's behaving normally. So for them to, make a huge display by, putting her in the vestibule or in this chamber between, outside and inside for 5 hours, that was their decision. Yes, we do. And Michelle, we do know the town, and we're going to follow up with that in 1 second. Because we have the father confronting the administrator.
Right.
And I have tweeted at the school district in New York, like multiple times. But all right, so what they're doing is they're drawing attention to her. So they're targeting her, they're humiliating her, they're setting her up as the scapegoat. They are making it so that the other students will blame her for any future measures that are taken that are more oppressive. And then they made an even bigger display of it by when she had to use the loo, they forced her outside to walk around the building and parade her around the building and then walk back in on the other side of the building to use the facilities. That is them making the decision to draw attention to her. That is their choice. A lot of people are pushing back and saying that it's the child's choice, that she's being a princess, that she's not wearing a mask, that she's being spoiled, and that the father supporting her decision not to do this is spoiling her or also bringing unnecessary attention
Right.
to the situation. So
Right.
They're not.
But
They're
see-
behaving normally. It's
Right.
the administration.
Exactly. But see, they're using the same language that's been used since the beginning of this. Because remember, when all this started happening, they were calling us selfish. They were calling us, unkind, and saying all these things. They were like, be kind.
Right.
And then I even saw somebody said, be more kind.
Oh God.
How is that possible? And we've talked about kindness and all that before, so I'm not going to go into that. But so the same language keeps coming back around and being used against people. And and shame and blame is what's actually taking place. And they are using shame and blame for a lot of things, and it's happening over and over again in a lot of contexts. I'm going to play the father confronting.
Right. Oh, just for Michelle's sake. Okay, so this is South Colony Schools in Albany County. So this is SOUTH, South Colony, COLONIE, Central School District, a K-12 school district serving approximately 4,800 students in Albany County,
New York. Wow.
Okay.
Okay, here's the dad.
Stop recording. Let's just have a conversation.
Why would I stop recording this?
This
is video evidence of what's happening.
You have no evidence. You don't even have a right to be here at this point, except to pick your daughter up and take her.
Why doesn't she have a right to be here?
I don't want to argue with you. I just want to show you. This was sent at 8:02. I've been dealing with your daughter since 7:30 this morning. Okay.
Okay.
This is a dust storm.
Exactly. And I know it is.
The dust is not settled yet, and you're making the problem worse by doing what you're doing. But there's a letter that I got from my superintendent this morning. Okay, we're doing the best we can to enforce the school policy for the safety of students.
See, if you notice, Dave Perry says it is not under appeal, and it says it's illegal.
But at this time, mask usage in South Colony will continue.
They can't continue it. It's illegal.
And you may very well be right.
All right, so you're going to have my daughter sit here all day long?
At this point in time, she has to leave. We're enforcing the mask.
Okay, so
we just
give her suspension letters, give her notice of discipline, and have the police department come down here and they can arrest both of us.
At this point right now,
you are going to be held personally liable for this. Personally, not the school district.
I appreciate the threat. Personally
liable.
Okay, so if you notice, the administrator said, I don't appreciate the threat.
Right.
So you have to, obviously the father is going to have to follow up in writing. What you have to do when you sue somebody is you have to give them an opportunity to make it right. So you go to them and you write a letter and say, before I take this to the next step, I want to give you an opportunity to no longer abuse my daughter, or if, like, say somebody owes you money, I would like to give you an opportunity for you to pay me back. You have to do that legally.
Right.
You have to do that.
You have to take those steps.
So you have to take those steps. And then if they refuse at that point, that's when you can move it into like a civil court situation where you can file charges against them. And so that's how we should be handling it. And we should not be announcing to people, this is where, the father was upset and angry. We shouldn't be announcing to people we're going to sue you. Basically, everything needs to be in writing. Because if you say it out loud to them prior to putting it in writing, then they can construe it as a threat and they can ban you for trespassing from the establishment. Which is
bullshit too, because it's not trespassing. It's a public space. It's
right.
Public property. It's part of, it's public property. It's not private property.
So as I always say,
and they do say that you're trespassing, but that's, you can't. I mean, he's actually has legitimate business there on school property, even though at the beginning of the video, he's like, you shouldn't be here. You're not allowed to be here. No, yes, he is allowed to be there. He's there picking up his daughter.
Right.
And he has something to say to the administrator. So he has business at hand. The other thing that was interesting about that clip is the administrator says, and I've been dealing with your daughter since 7:02 this morning. Dealing with her?
Dealing with?
As if this is a problem. As if she is the problem. You see
Right.
what's going on here? This is there, and so what on the opposite side of what you were saying, that you know
Right.
you've got to you know create a you have to document these things and say what you're going to do ahead of time. See, the administrator also made a threat. Okay, I'm going to call the police on you for trespassing, and yet the father pointed out, look, you should serve her papers of being, you know, what did he say, discipline papers or whatever for
Right.
suspension,
Mm-hmm.
right? I forget how he said it exactly. Instead of just doing this, I mean, if there's a problem, then you have to document it.
Right. Right. Exactly. You do.
And yet, this is what's going on, and they're relying on rules, not laws, and they're not documenting the disciplinary action. They're just taking action.
So what I'd like to do is I'd like to read a letter that was written to another father who was even less aggressive than this father, and I will leave all
And I would
names.
even say that was aggressive. That was pretty reasonable as far as I was
Right.
concerned.
Right. I will leave all names out of the letter. I'll leave the name of the school district out of the letter. Just when I read the letter, I'll leave the names of it out of it. Just know that it's in New York. Okay. So when you do enter the elementary school building for a permitted purpose, you must behave appropriately. Neither threats nor any form of disruptive behavior will be tolerated. If you violate the restrictions on entry or behavior described above, you will be treated as a trespasser, and the school district reserves the right to eject you from the premises by appropriate means, including arrest. Okay, so there's more, but I'll leave it at that. All right, so what we have are these unelected committees that are policing your behavior. And this is something that we talked about from the very beginning, that this entire process was all about behavioral modification. And it goes layers deep, and we're going to get into the next phase of the behavioral modification, which is one of the reasons that we are being squelched so badly, is because we are not behaving according to the conduct that social media believes that we should behave, I guess, right? So,
Right.
So this is, they're very serious about this, and the only answer to the school districts who are creating all of this trauma in these families, because that's what's happening, is it's not just affecting the children, it's affecting the families of the children as well. The only answer to this is to pull your child from school. There is no other answer. You do not have constitutional protections. They don't consider it a human rights abuse. They don't consider it a violation of, you know, the state order, which states that all schools don't have to wear a mask. You know, that the kids at all the schools in New York don't have to wear a mask. These unelected committee members, these corporate people that run budgets and review, you know, where the money is going to be spent for the next year or the next quarter, they don't care about that. They don't. None of that applies. All of the things that you feel that you have to protect you in your arsenal, it won't matter. The only thing that you can do to fix the problem is to take your kid out of school. That's your only answer. And that's really hard for a lot of people.
Right, because what are they going to do, right?
Right.
I mean, it's hard enough for parents when they have to have their kids at home on tablets, right? So then taking your kid out of school, you know, then you're sort of violating the law of, you know, making sure that your child is in school. You know, the other thing, and you mentioned the behavioral modification. Your behavior is the main thing that I think is really the focus of everything that's going on right now.
Right.
And you see examples of it going on in corporate America, behavior through, you know, behavior modification through, you know, the way you talk, the way you act, what you say, how you say it, what you do, how you do it. Corporate America has always been like that, but it's become a much different sort of playground. It's now about making sure people are safe and making sure people are protected, and and they do this through their through nudging and through social behavior norms, and using identity politics, but more than that, they're using intersectionality in a lot of ways, as a means of like bringing up people's identity, who they are, and then and making them proud for that, but then making sure that that's a way to modify your behavior and bring about conformity even further. Right. So by lifting people's identity up and making them feel more free, they're actually creating more conformity through this means of using intersectionality. And the same thing goes with the masking and the language that you're allowed to use when you're in these situations. The father was considered abusive by the administrator, but the administrator was also abusive. Right. Okay. But he's allowed to be abusive in that way, because but the father isn't.
Yeah, he's getting paid to be abusive.
Right. So and this is what was going on with the stores early on when everything was happening. You saw our Trader Joe's video, and so this is a way of smacking people down and making them behave like they're bad dogs. Like they're rolling up a goddamn newspaper and smacking you over the nose with it.
Right. And you're not a dog, you're not an animal.
And you're not a slave.
And you're not a slave. And my feeling is that if you're forced to continue to interact with these institutions that have these kinds of policies, then to bring as little attention to yourself as possible and work behind the scenes to do like civil lawsuits against specific people. Like the father of the preteen, of the videos that we just watched, the father is going to file charges against that administrator for abuse of his child.
Yeah.
For endangering his child.
Right.
And that's reasonable because she was in a cold vestibule for 5 hours. She was taken outside and walked around the perimeter of the school in 20-something degree weather to use the loo instead of through the hallway. Right. She was treated differently than everybody else.
So then the walk of shame, right?
The walk of shame, exactly. Yeah. It was all about humiliation, and that's what this is all about. And I've been there. I've had administrators go out of their way to humiliate me and target me and scapegoat me, and so has JP. That's part of the corporate experience, and so that's what we're dealing with here. And you can't get angry and you can't make threats because they will simply use their attack dogs, their private security personnel to go after you. They'll use their own policies and turn them around on you. You just have to quietly go behind the scenes and, see if you can get a lawyer or, the court system to somehow support you, and just, that father, again, is going to file charges against that individual administrator. He's not going to take on the whole school district.
No, and
he's going to go after the one person.
And that's the wisest thing he can do.
That's the best thing you can do.
And it's the only thing we can really do anymore.
Right.
Yeah, so big protests are not working. The traditional ways that we've been able to air our issues, our problems, which is again a protected constitutional right, and I say protected because all these are rights that we have as humans that are then protected by the Constitution, protecting us from the state, protecting us from whatever. So these things are now being altered and being told that we don't have them any longer,
Right.
And I kind of forgot my point.
Well, let's talk about. So we really wanted to drive that home.
Oh,
You know, there's a lot of people that are frustrated because, you know, the judge came out with the ruling that said that, you know, the state of New York school students, you know, school children don't have to wear a mask anymore. And yet the school districts are still enforcing it, and
right.
people are very confused. And that's because your school districts have been purchased by big tech, by corporate interests. Investments have been made in behavioral modification training. None of this has to do with an education.
Right.
It has to do with belief systems and following orders.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
And that's it.
Yeah, following the rules. What I was going to say is, you know, something that everybody has to keep in mind is that nothing is the way it used to be. Okay?
Right.
Nothing. No aspect of your life is any longer going to be the same as it was. What you grew up with is not going to be the norm. And, you know, okay, granted, we live in a progressive society where, you know, progress is made and things change and tastes change and
we have running water
norms
now.
change. Yeah, we have running water and electricity. But I mean, what I'm trying to say is, you know, the way we behaved, you know, in the 80s is different than the way we behave now.
Right.
Okay, those things change through society, but at the same time, things now are being imposed on us so that those things that we expect to be normal are no longer normal. So, for instance, you know, the ways that we air our grievances to the state are no longer acceptable. You cannot, and if you do go out and protest, you have to expect that you will be registered, monitored, and you know, possibly arrested for just being there. And
Right.
And you know, we were talking about behavior. And that is tied into identity, which is then recorded and tracked through your behavior. So the things that we're getting squashed for, you know, like on Facebook and stuff like that, is also part of this whole tracking and identity and all those kinds of things.
That's true.
And so we were going to talk about the big protest that's going on right now.
Right. and a lot of the different, you know, the different aspects to it. You have something called the 100th monkey effect that's taking place right now. I've talked about this on audios that I do. So I go live on our Facebook community page called Book of Hours on Facebook.
Facebook.com/Book of Hours.
And I do live audios almost every day. And I've talked about the 100th monkey effect, which is that, you know, you've got an idea that then, you know,
an idea or behavior
is adopted, and then a new idea or behavior is adopted. So when we had the story of the 100 monkeys falling off the back of the truck in Pennsylvania, I knew that a new mass formation, a new mass psychological overhaul was about ready to take place. And we're in it. We're in the middle of it right now.
And it's called the convoy, right? The truck convoy.
Right. It's called the convoy.
So what we've been looking at is that this is also a means of changing the way you behave, changing the way you, you know, the ideas. It has basically distracted a lot of people from talking about the V and the CV.
Right.
Because now they're talking about the truckers, because the truckers are, you know, saying things that are anti passport and things of that nature. We feel that this is a big distraction. We feel that the truckers. I feel that the truckers are being downplayed, and the convoy is being, you know, the thing that's being lifted up, and the message is being lifted up. The truckers, I feel, are like props. I don't feel that this is I feel like this is an AstroTurf.
Oh yeah.
Protest. This
feels like it.
This is not grassroots.
Right.
And you guys, you know, you're probably going to be mad at us, but we
Well,
do
this
not.
is why this is why JP
This
is
is
on.
why I got banned.
This is why he's blocked. This is why our pages have been banned or blocked. This is why he got a ban, because of what we're saying right now.
Right. So this is not about truckers. This is not about protests. This is not even about vaccine passports. What this is this is a shift. This isn't even about the supply chain. Okay, it is about the supply chain, but only in a
Kind of in an abstract way.
in an abstract way.
It's not the thing that's going on with
What
this,
we're we
this
did,
trucker story.
well, we did an audio about this, and I'd love to go back and listen to it, but it's an hour long. But you know what's going on here is that and everybody we know and respect are cheering on the truckers, and what we're trying to say is this is not real. This is not a real protest. What is going on is AstroTurf. Elon Musk has come out and supported this thing. Why would Elon Musk come out and support this thing?
Because of Neuralink.
Well, okay, that's.
I know, I'm being really
Let's back up a little
obnoxious.
bit. Okay, so we've talked about something that goes on in poor communities. It's a form of investing in poor communities. And that very thing is called
an opportunity zone.
An opportunity zone. And we live in an opportunity zone. And what an opportunity zone is an area that billionaires can invest in somehow, and they get tax breaks. Okay, it's supposed to create jobs, and it's supposed to create opportunities for the people who live in these communities, and they do nothing of the kind. What they do is they support nonprofits that provide services that don't really do much of anything. If anything, they keep the poor people poor so that they keep coming back for those services. The billionaires make money by getting those tax breaks because they save money from from having to pay all that money on the money that they make, right?
Can I interject really quickly?
Yeah. So then I want to tie that into what's going on now.
So Sean said that it's awesome. 59,000 plus truckers are heading to Canada. Love it. I agree with you. I think it's awesome because in 2016, we've been talking about how technology will be taking over the jobs of all of the truckers since 2016. So I am so excited that these truckers are fighting to keep their jobs, fighting to keep it from being taken over by technology, because $500 million has already been invested, and up to $2 billion has already been invested into taking over the jobs of truckers and making them autonomous vehicles.
Right.
So Sean, I am so glad that you're part of this rally and part of this, this stand against technology to take over your job. I would hate for you to lose your job, obviously. So that's what I wanted to say.
Right. And so we're not against truckers. We're not against the working class. We are, we live amongst.
But we are against Elon Musk.
We're against the organization of this.
And Uber. Uber Freight.
Okay, so we'll get into that in a second. All right. So, so what's going? This is so complex and it's so hard.
It's not that complex.
Yeah, but it's so hard to like talk about because we've been talking about it in the morning and like we're throwing things out and it's a lot.
Okay.
It's a lot to take in.
It's not.
Friends of ours who have been looking into the organizers in Australia, the truckers in Convoy in Australia, are finding that some of the organizers are related to black ops in the military, and so you have people like this who are putting these things together. Sorry about that, and they are leading us into these protests that everybody is supporting, but it's taking us down the road into a place that is not good. The money that people are giving has basically is not going to go to feed give sandwiches to these guys. When you give money, and we feel that this is going nowhere. I'm really having a hard time
Well,
with
this has been a really frustrating experience for us because we talked about how this is a sort of a cover for further sustainable development models. And if you're not familiar with the term sustainable development, it basically, and we're seeing evidence of it in our local area. So this is taken away from the fact that we've got a $1 trillion infrastructure bill, which is again part of the transportation system, and that includes, the shipping industry. So what we're seeing is a merging of tech and some freight alliances with freight companies in order to change the way that our supply chain is run, which will inevitably hurt the people in the long run.
Yeah.
So that's why this is so frustrating. And when we tried to talk about it, we got a ban. And that's why he's frustrated, and that's why he's upset, because he spoke about something that didn't have to do with feeding truckers sandwiches on the side of the road. And he didn't support the GoFundMe initiatives, which, again, is another PSYOP. So GoFundMe is part of it.
GoFundMe, and that's what I was trying to get at. Yeah. GoFundMe is part of this thing. And when you give money, you are then, you're registered. Now, part of the problem is that the thing in Canada, especially, the language, and we're coming back to the whole idea of like behavior, right? And language. The truckers are now being called, or the language of domestic terrorism is being used and aimed at them. And I would not be surprised if the white supremacist label is going to start getting used against the truck drivers in this convoy, as well as the people who are supporting them, as well as the people who have given money to GoFundMe accounts. Right. You see where this is going? Mm-hmm. People are going to be shamed and blamed. They're going to be targeted for their behavior, and they're going to be called white supremacists, or at the very least, domestic terrorists. And so the problem with this is a gigantic fucking funneling of people into a movement, into a protest that's going to ultimately turn around and hurt them. And this is why I'm so upset. And this is why I'm angry that people who should be paying attention to this and understanding what the fuck this is, it's not a goddamn protest. It's not truckers driving across the country and staying in people's homes. And yeah, maybe that's going on. And maybe real people are involved with this. But this is not about what you think it is. This is about culling people and taking away their freedoms and taking away their rights and taking away their money. That's what this is about. And not only that, but what's happening is this is investment in the future of taking away jobs from the truckers.
I know. That's what's so ironic about this whole thing. And we've got some headlines that we want to share with you, specifically from, on a technology, from a technology position.
Okay.
Okay. So, but can I read?
Yeah, go ahead.
Let me read 3 headlines that I came across just in the last 48 hours, 24 to 48 hours.
Okay.
Okay. So this is from the, it's regarding the domestic terrorism.
Okay. Yeah.
This is from HuffPost. The Huffington Post says, the convoy of truckers are set to descend on Canada's capital, and this has prompted police to prepare for the possibility of violence. All right, that's from Huffington Post. Globalnews.ca, so globalnews.canada, writes, police warn of consequences for violence as trucker convoy nears Ottawa. That's from globalnews.ca. And then the Canadian Association of Journalists put out an alert to all journalists who are covering the story. They encouraged the journalists to protect themselves from covering this story. They are encouraging them to take preemptive action to ensure that the safety of journalists is protected in the wake of increasing threats made against reporters covering the ongoing convoy.
Right.
Now, we all know that this is propaganda. We all know that there's no violence. But just because something isn't true doesn't mean that they aren't going to reinvent something, say, like the Patriot Act, and turn fathers who want to protect their daughters from having to wear a mask all day or being humiliated into domestic terrorists or terrorists. Or it doesn't mean that good people who have good, pure intentions will not be inadvertently turned into domestic terrorists.
For doing kind acts.
Right. And
right?
the media is going to support this idea that showing support for the working class is an act of domestic terrorism.
Right.
We know that that's not true. We know that there is not a shred of violence within this convoy. We also know that there is not any threats that have been made against journalists. Nothing like that has taken place. But just because, we know that it's false doesn't mean that the legislative process that will turn us into domestic terrorists isn't going to use those false stories as a way to support whatever laws they put into place in the future.
So going back to that last article that you were reading from, again, they were using the same language that we've been talking about.
Right.
Safety, threats,
right,
protection. Okay, these are all words and concepts that keep getting put forward, and I think ultimately, the jobs are going to be turned over to autonomous vehicles, and we'll get into that in a second. But these jobs are going to be taken away, turned over to autonomous vehicles, and they'll use that same language. Oh, but for the safety of people, so that they're not, driving trucks, and getting hurt. They have to be protected, and we all have to be protected from, microbes that, might, get carried by truck drivers, and that blah, 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 blah. You see what I'm saying? It's like, it's all about safety and protection when it's really not about that. And what I feel is that, and this is speculation in a big way, and I'm not generally a scaremonger, but what I'm trying to say is that I feel that with the coming of the autonomous trucks and vehicles, will be the banning of human drivers on interstate highways and curtailing our freedom of movement even further by not allowing us to drive on the same highways that those autonomous vehicles drive on.
Right. Like Juniper just said, this is Canada's January 6th so-called insurrection.
Right.
Exactly. It's the same playbook.
Exactly. Thank you. Julie and I have been talking about that as well. Now, let me bring up an article here, and this is going back to 2016, and I heard about this when it happened. I have to share my screen here.
This is why I said, 2016, we started talking about the loss of truck drivers to technology all the way back in 2016. So we're going to show you the story that prompted us to talk about it back then.
Yeah, so Uber has quietly launched, I love that. Quietly launched its own Uber for trucking marketplace called Uber Freight. What happened was that they bought a company called Otto, and what Otto was a business that was creating autonomously driven trucks. That was the whole thing. Otto's main focus was to build self-driving truck kits that equipment manufacturers or freight networks could buy and install on their own. But it also secretly harbored a desire to build its own Uber for trucking marketplace. And so what we're seeing, and let me come back here, is that Uber basically said, hey, that's a great idea. And I also heard, and probably earlier around that same time, that they bought a company that, and I wasn't able to find the stories on this, but that they were buying a company that did logistics.
Right.
Right. So this was a company. The company that they bought was the kind of company that arranges for a truck driver to pick up a shipment at, say, the docks or the train, and then take it to a warehouse or whatever, right? And they move that stuff from one place to another. Well, they bought a logistics company, and I'm thinking,
Transplace?
well, that's the recent acquisition, okay? But
right.
this is a while ago. This is around the same time that they bought Otto. In fact, it might have been before they bought Otto. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And so what they were planning to do is apply their own technology to a logistics company, so that you're taking away jobs from people who create those connections, right?
Mm-hmm.
And what they were saying in the report when I first heard it was probably on NPR, and it was that long ago,
right?
Because I haven't listened to them in years. But anyway, they were talking about how they were going to be more efficient because of their technology and creating a means of connecting, a vehicle with a warehouse to a port, and port to a warehouse,
right,
etc. Right.
Right.
Okay. So that took place in 2016. So they have logistics.
Right.
Then they buy an autonomous truck company. Okay. And I'm going to share again here. And this one is about, let's see, a recent thing. Uber is buying a logistics company. Yeah. So this just happened this past summer. Okay. Uber to buy logistics company Transplace for $2.25 billion. And what's going on here is that they are another logistics company, except they, let's see, they forget what they're all about. But basically, Transplace is basically created. So they had a company called Uber Freight, and now Uber Freight acquired Transplace.
Right.
And here's a quote that just really kills me, and I shared it with some people earlier. The demands of a volatile market and increasing complexity of globalized logistics are clashing with the industrial age transportation technology, Uber and Transplace said in a joint press release on Thursday.
Right.
In the midst of capacity constraints and escalating transportation costs, shippers are adapting to their operations at an increasing pace and looking for technology, support, and solutions that can modernize their supply chain. There's that phrase, supply chain, and keep critical goods and the economy moving, the company's added. Now, this is nothing to do with providing jobs to people, right? This is about, was I not sharing that?
There we go.
Okay. I don't know if that was being shared or not.
No, it was shared.
It was, okay.
It was
all right,
shared.
so I had the wrong thing. So this has nothing to do with trucker jobs. This has everything to do with taking away jobs and modernizing. And this whole idea ties into the infrastructure bill that was passed, right? And what we're going to get into are situations with, the transportation bill is going to tie into sustainable development goals.
Right.
Because we can't have gasoline cars anymore. We have to have electric cars. Now, I'm going to do a video eventually about this, but green cars are not green at all. In fact, energy of any kind there's no such thing as green energy. There's no such thing as energy that doesn't, cost something, right? I saw a New York Times article, and I cannot share it because it's behind a paywall, but basically talking about how the Biden administration wanted to increase production in a mine in Washington, the state of Washington, that would affect the salmon streams that run into Native American land, or reservations, if you want to be, blunt. And so what's happening is in the name of green energy, they're polluting rivers and killing the salmon, as well as not only that, but a culture and a way of life. Okay, that's deliberate. Okay,
that is deliberate.
It takes hundreds of pounds of minerals, like cobalt and other things, to make batteries that go into like a Tesla. Okay, now what we've heard is that Elon Musk has put support into this truck convoy protest. Why would he do that? I'm wondering. Okay, well, we saw something earlier today where somebody says, interesting that Elon Musk puts money into a slush fund that allows him to become a trillionaire.
Right.
Okay, so what's going on with this thing? And this is why I brought up investment opportunity zones.
Right. Opportunity.
Is because
right.
what's going on with Elon Musk and this truck thing is the same thing that goes on with opportunity zones. They are investing in people's misery. They're immiserating the people who are the working class. They're going to take away their jobs, but they're going to make money doing it. And how would he do that? Well, since the infrastructure bill is going to include, greening, okay, but it also will include probably, something in there for, and I haven't read the damn thing, but I'm speculating that it will have something to do with autonomous vehicles.
Right.
A lot of roads that are being put into place now, there's equipment going into the pavement that monitors either traffic flow or something, but it tells me that there may be also something in there that would allow autonomous vehicles to navigate. Okay, that's speculation, but it's reasonable speculation.
I want to just pause for 1 minute and read Matt's comment. Can you scroll up a minute, or
Sure.
the other?
Sorry about that.
Okay.
Yeah. We're on our very
Okay.
old
Scroll down just a little. It's great to see you both. You are doing outstanding work, and it's great to listen to cutting edge analysis.
Thank you.
Matt, thank you so much. This is the patron.
Right. So thank you for increasing.
Thank you for your patronage.
Yes.
Thank you so much for your continued support, and for all of our patrons who are listening. You're really the reason that we keep going. I'm not kidding. It sounds cheesy, but some of the stuff that you write about and some of the stuff that you tweet and you post on your social media pages really does inspire us to look at things in a different way.
Yeah.
So I want you to know that you're the reason that we are sort of the outliers today in the middle of this, mass hysteria over the convoy, that we decided to look at it from the angle of technology, from the angle of sustainable development, and from the angle of what this means for future supply chains coming down the pike.
Right.
Maybe it won't affect us, in the next year, but I have a feeling it will be operational and running in this sort of new normal way by 2025. Maybe at the latest 2030.
Probably 2030, yeah.
So
because that seems to be the date everybody's pointing to.
Right, and a lot of this, and it takes a lot of money and a lot of support to get these technologies in place, and they can only do it with the support of the community and the support of good people.
Right.
Even if it means that they have to lie to the good people and create a story, a feel-good story, in order to get support, so that 10 years down the road, when you are wondering why the supply chain is so different now than what it was, say, when you were a kid, or even just 10 years prior, and you maybe go to somebody who was in charge of this whole thing, and they could say, oh, well, don't you remember the convoy? You supported that. You were on the side of the road cheering for that.
Right.
So they can use it against you.
Right. Well, no.
So,
okay.
I'm good.
So one of the things that brought to my attention and made me think about this, and Sean said something about always screwing my ancestors, and we were talking about Native Americans being fucked over by the government, right?
Right. Totally.
And this is something that you see over and over again. The thing that gets replaced is the thing they name something for, right? So they name something for the thing that's been replaced. Doesn't matter if it's a grove of birch trees, a trout stream, a Native American tribe, right?
Well,
so
and if you
and so or a movement, right? A trucker, so a thing, right? So
it's, if you're living in an urban environment, every city has an MLK Drive, Martin Luther King Drive, and that's where most of the arrests of Black people take place.
Right. Exactly. Thank you.
So
there you go. So let me get back to Elon Musk. Now, getting back to Elon Musk. So why would Elon Musk be positioned to make money from this thing that's going on with truck drivers? What does Elon Musk have to do with it? Well, if we look at the Sustainable Development Goals and we look at the infrastructure bill, we know that green vehicles or electric vehicles are going to start coming into the norm.
Right.
Okay. What company does Elon Musk? Oh, right, Tesla.
So I would argue, let me
Interject,
advocate.
okay.
Let me interject and let me advocate for those people who don't agree with our analysis and say,
No,
oh,
not that.
but Tesla is actually not a very good car, and that's true. They're actually not that great. They're overpriced, and they don't have a lot of staying power. So what's your response to that?
Well, it's not about the vehicle. It's not about the car. It doesn't matter about the reliability of the car. It's the brand.
Right.
Who buys Teslas? The managerial class and the investment class, and they
Right.
do it for the reasons that you know it's a you know, like a status symbol,
Right.
right? And so that brand gets built up by those people who are doing the investing, and it keeps that brand, you know, lifted up. Okay, so now and not only that, but see, you have early adopters into a technology, right? And they're willing to pay that extra money for that privilege, right? And with that, the further development of that vehicle, they get to work out all the bugs. They get to figure out what works, what doesn't, what makes it better, what makes it more efficient, et cetera, right? So now, if they can take that technology and turn it into trucks, you now have an electric truck.
Right.
Okay. He makes he makes, you know, like you go driving anywhere and they have Tesla banks at like roads, you know, like at rest stops. Like the Pennsylvania Turnpike has Tesla areas so that you can plug in your vehicle and charge it up.
Right.
Okay. So the brand is out there, and if you start getting Tesla trucks, well then, you know, they're going to start using Tesla trucks. But he owns another company, and it's called Neuralink.
That's the key, right?
So
there.
if you combine, and this is why she quipped Neuralink earlier,
Right.
if you combine the technology of Neuralink and its ability to, you know, get things to work, and you combine that with autonomous and electric vehicles, now you have that infrastructure that is required to take away those jobs.
Right.
And you combine that with Uber, I'm sure that there will be some sort of partnership that will take place in the future between these companies that will allow them to do this and dominate the marketplace.
So we have a couple of headlines that are fairly recent that are sort of our ace in the hole. We'll save the best for last. The one that I texted you earlier.
Oh, right.
Today.
Yeah.
Why don't we use look at the one that says Uber sells $500 million stake.
Right.
And
so it was brought to our attention that, you know, well, but Uber is you know, losing money in the stock market, and yeah, well, that's been happening here and there.
Right.
And so Uber sells $500 million stake in its freight business as ride-hailing giants work to conserve cash. Well, you know, what they're doing is they're just being, you know, a corporation.
Right.
Right. And oftentimes, you know, corporate strategy has nothing to do with investment.
It doesn't have to do with
strategy.
what's going on Wall Street.
The Wall Street, you know, they're looking for less risk and more, you know, reliability, basically. And so they don't like it when companies do things they weren't expecting. Okay. So this report is even kind of bullshit, because they're like, COVID-19 pandemic upended that business strategy, prompting Uber to offload its share. So what they did was they sold a company called Jump, and what Jump was is they were a bike share bikes. So they were these red. They were all over San Francisco. They were electric bikes that you could rent. You could ride them from from where you picked it up to where you were going, and just leave it there.
Right.
And so they dumped that, but they picked up Postmates. So that tells me that what they're doing is they are consolidating their delivery and freight type of business, even though they dumped some of their freight business. I don't think they dumped that much of it. They probably dumped the stuff that wasn't working for them, right? So, you know, this is all part of their overall strategy, and it looks to me like they're consolidating. What were some of your thoughts about that particular?
About this,
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, you understand it better than I do, and you nailed it. I think that the bigger issue right now that's going on in Canada is that there seems to be a coming together of different voices. Are these tabs up here?
Yeah, so I'll stop sharing those things. They're kind of distracting, aren't they?
They are.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Sorry, we're on a new, different platform, a different system here. So again, I want to reiterate that what's happening is that GoFundMe has claimed that they I don't know if this has changed. I mean, it seems like the story changes every day. GoFundMe has said that they're not going to release the money to the truckers. At first they said because they don't support domestic terrorists, and then they
Right.
walked that back.
Right.
And they said, no, we're not going to, we're actually not going to release it because what we need to see is a plan of where the money is going to go.
Right.
So, and then apparently they trickled out like $1 million. And so they released like $1 million. I would argue that the GoFundMe account is real, but that it hasn't generated
Yes.
$5, $6, $10 million. It's probably generated about $1 million.
The money that they trickled out.
That from actual people,
Right.
from people funding. So why do they keep throwing out these big numbers? Why do they keep throwing out 5 million, 6 million, 7 million, 10 million? I would argue that it's because they have millions of dollars in place from big tech, from their governments, and from sustainable development investors in order to implement all of these changes that he's talking about. That is where the money is really going to come from. But no one's going to look at that when they're all excited about this people-powered movement. And to piggyback on the idea that it's a people-powered movement, sure, there are people right now in the middle of winter that are, singing songs and hugging each other and dancing and being joyous and having a really great time coming together. And I would argue that you don't need a PSYOP in order to do that. You don't need trucker convoys that, like, for instance, in Australia are run by military operatives in order to come together to dance in the park. You can just do that. If that's what you want, is to be joyful, and everybody should be. And
Right.
so the people coming together and finding joy out of this and finding some kind of working together for something better is great.
Mhm.
We're not against that. We're not against that. We're against Elon Musk. We're against the $500 million investment. That Uber sold $500 million. You just talked about it.
Okay.
So
yeah.
we're against drivers like Sean losing their job. I'm not laughing at you, Sean. You just said kumbaya. Every time I see that, I laugh. So we're against actual truck drivers losing their jobs, and we're also against surveillance, and we're also against unnecessary implementation of electronics or technology that could actually hurt people and hurt the earth in the long run. It takes billions of dollars to extract various components of the technology in order to surveil you and monitor the supply chain.
Right.
We're against all that.
And we're against AstroTurf, cynical.
Oh, right. And we're against that too.
Cynical organization of fake grassroots or AstroTurf movements or protests.
Right.
And so what has upset me a great deal.
We're very familiar with AstroTurf protests because there are no real protests in San Francisco. It's basically block parties.
Right.
So I know that we're being cynical.
Well, no, we're not being cynical.
We're being skeptical.
We're being skeptical
of what we're being fed.
What's cynical is this protest. The organizers of the protest, not the people supporting it, but the people who started it. I think that it is deliberately using people's goodwill, their compassion, and their empathy towards something that they believe in order to hurt what it is they actually want. Okay? And that's what I'm gets. And what really upsets me are the people that we know who are smart enough to understand this, but they're missing it,
Right.
right? And they're going along with the narrative.
Well, for now,
Well,
they'll probably come around.
well,
People do.
I don't know.
You know?
I don't know. Okay, so so then
What's our ace in the hole?
so then
for
our
Canada?
so what's going on here is we have another article that we want to show you, and it's kind of the killer of the whole thing.
Block parties in Folsom Street Fair. You got it, Sean.
That's basically it. Yeah, go get your chaps on and slap your backside. Slap my bottom. Let's see.
Okay, so right here, the
Right
bottom
there.
one.
Okay.
Yeah, check this out.
Okay, so
May of 2021, this was written about. Why didn't anybody talk about this in Canada?
this is actually on Uber's website, on their blog.
You can find a lot on their
and,
website.
and all these links are
actually.
in our show notes. Introducing shipper platform in Canada, a new way to
A new
ship.
way to ship.
So this is basically this is Uber freight, but packaged in a different way, and they're using their app, and it's Uber Freight's self-service shipper platform in Canada. So this is what we feel is just like, this is what's going on with the what?
Oh, look at this, Trucking HR Canada. What's that? According to a report from Trucking HR Canada, the country is expected to be short 25,000 truck drivers as early as 2023. Okay, you guys?
Representing a 25%
increase over unified or unfilled vacancies.
Right. Okay, which also, see, this came out at a time when the narrative that was going on was that people were not ready to go back to work because they were either lazy or whatever. So they were afraid of the variant or whatever. So we saw in the summertime, we actually saw people wearing T-shirts that were like saying things like, they're basically accusing workers of being lazy for not going back to work. And some guy had a fake Red Lobster T-shirt on and says, "We apologize for the inconvenience because people are
lazy
because people don't want to come back to work or
That's
whatever."
such bullshit.
And it is bullshit, and it's
I mean,
capitalist propaganda that basically that basically vilifies workers for something that they shouldn't even be doing in the first place. Working in a place like that is just horrible.
What's this here? Do we have a private message?
Let me see. I don't think so. I think that this is no. It's just a chat that came in.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So, all right.
So okay. So this thing is a big fucking psyop and a big fuck you to workers, and it's going to hurt people who are actually supporting it.
Yeah, in the long run, it feels
in the long run, and that's something that we're the most upset about it. But when we try to talk about it,
we get banned.
We get banned, or we get banned by the people who don't want us to reveal this. But then the people who believe in it get upset at us as well.
Right. So what we have is a new mass formation taking place right before our eyes. We went from everybody being obsessed about COVID, whether it was, hey, look, I'm against COVID policy. You were obsessed about it. Or, hey, look, we have to do everything we can in order to flatten that curve or bring down those COVID cases. So you better put on your mask and get your boosters and all that. That language has literally been co-opted into Convoy. I said to JP this morning, I was like, so anyway, this thing about COVID, and somebody would respond and say, what's a COVID? What's a
You mean
what's a COVID? Oh, you mean Convoy.
Right. Convoy.
See, your minds have been, transferred already into this new mass formation.
Right.
So, I mean, I think that kind of stuff is real. I think that the 100th monkey effect is real.
Yeah, and we saw that introduced to us in Pennsylvania before
through a story
before the Convoy thing happened.
And of course, I said, "Watch out! Here it comes."
Right.
We're getting ready to pivot into a new thing.
Right. We got we got a trucking psyop rolling through the night.
Well,
okay.
There's so many different ways that this can go, and I really hope that people understand that everything that we shared today regarding, Elon Musk and Uber and, these alliances and business partnerships are really going to change the way that, the supply chain is carried in the future.
We were going to talk about something else, and I forgot to bring that tab up, but we can talk about it anyway.
What is it?
So, have you heard about the crying game?
Oh, right.
Yeah, no, not that crying game.
Not that crying game.
Not that one. What we're talking about is we've been seeing an increasing number of posts on social media about people crying.
Right. So people have been really emotional about this story. They're very, I'm crying and, I'm weeping with joy and I'm crying with relief that, that people are finally standing up and doing the right thing. And or just lots of crying.
Lots of crying.
The word crying keeps coming up.
So it doesn't matter
videos of people crying.
Exactly. So it doesn't matter if it's tears of joy or tears of sadness. It's crying, and it keeps coming up. And crying is a very, it's a very strong reaction to an emotion, right? It's what we do. We all do it. And so we're not making fun of the crying, but we are calling out the fact that it's being used, it's coming up over and over again, and we're like, okay, what's that all about? Why is that trending? Why are we seeing it? And Julie brought up an article, and it's in the show notes, so you can go there. I forgot to bring the tab up, so I can't show it to you, but the military has been using the sound of, it's the war zone. Yeah.
Right. So
go ahead, read that.
So the U.S. psyops blasted ISIS with recordings of crying. So they, in order to torture and psychologically torture their captors, who they thought were terrorists or ISIS operatives or whatever, they would play over and over again recordings of people crying in order to break them down psychologically. Everything that you're experiencing since especially, and it's all been amped up in the age of COVID. And we did a video, the very first video essay that we ever did regarding COVID or regarding the COVID-19 fraud was called Quarantyranny. And we talked openly about how these are regular military exercises that they have been practicing on people like ISIS detainees or people that they deemed terrorists. They've been practicing on them for 20 years, probably since 9/11, if not before. So now all of these tactics are being waged on you through cute little emojis and feel-good paintings of truckers.
I know, we saw that. You showed me that painting, and it was just,
God,
it was like a Thomas Kincaid painting.
It looked like
really gross,
something out of a cult. It really did. It had a cultish feel about it, which kind of gave me the creeps. So just about everything that you see on social media,
very sentimental. Yeah,
very sentimental. Sentimentality is also used as a way to co-opt your will. So the whole point here is that these are military operations, but instead of men in black showing up and throwing you into a black ops site where nobody knows where you are, they're just gonna do military psychological campaigns on you through your Facebook page or through whatever.
Well, remember,
through various channels.
Facebook came to us courtesy of DARPA.
Right.
So this is why military operations are taking place.
Right.
PSYOPs are taking place in your local Facebook page.
Right. So if you see a lot of people crying on social media,
posts about crying,
or posting about crying, or that they've been crying for days because they're weeping with joy and getting it all out, that feels very manipulative to me. That feels kind of like psychological warfare. Like, somebody that I like a lot was like, "Oh, I've been crying for days," and I was like, why haven't I been crying? Is there something wrong with me? And then I realized, no, I'm not subject to these military campaigns to, change the way that I think. I'm still going to maintain my skepticism just about everything that is fed to me, even if it's good news through social media, through the people that I agree with, especially regarding like the COVID fraud. A lot of people who have, been the strongest advocates for challenging the COVID fraud have left that behind to adopt the
Convoy.
the convoy language. And this is again part of the whole splintering and bifurcating. You've got, first it was people who didn't believe the official 9/11 narrative, and then it was people who didn't even believe the unofficial 9/11 narrative, and then it was people who were even, and we're super fringy, we believe the Judy Wood version of 9/11, which is really, really fringy, right?
Yeah.
But, our friends still liked us and still tolerated us, and we were still respected. And then when COVID came and we were like, nope, this is a total fraud. This is a total military operation.
This is a marketing campaign.
A marketing campaign. This is a business. This is basically a business proposal coming out of the marketing department called the World Economic Forum. Those people who tolerated our position about, our fringy position about 9/11 suddenly were like, ooh, no, that's not good. So it was a further splintering and a further bifurcation. But we had friends that were still, on board with us about that. But then when the trucker convoy came and we were like, nope, it's also a psyop, it's not real. We lost those friends,
right.
who were with us with the COVID, So it's a further splintering apart. It's just a cudgeling away. It's just a splitting apart of society.
And the Green New Deal and the Sustainable Development Goals are going to do that even further.
Oh yeah,
right.
It's
and there was a marketing agency that is responsible for all the language that came around the CV and the COVID for you and me. And that company is called Forest Marsh Group.
What was that?
I don't know, something back there. It's getting cold in the room. Our heat is down, so it might have been something settling. Oh, I hope my guitar strings didn't break.
Oh Jesus!
No, I'm kidding.
Another problem.
I know, right? Yeah, but it's cold outside. But yeah, there's lots of snow still. But yeah, Forest Marsh Group. It's just so they're pretty much one of the responsible parties for all the language, all the graphics, all the the propaganda that's been coming out.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think we're coming up to the end of another edition.
Another
of
edition
Bookmark.
of Bookmark.
Yeah.
Let's see. And I apologize for always checking my device and everything. It's just that our feed was terribly interrupted. We had
that's why we ended up being late.
All of these interruptions and bans, and and they were surprised too. Like I logged into one account and it was like, "Whoop, you can't do that." And I was like, "Well, when did that happen?"
Right.
Apparently, it happened like now. So just today. So it's obviously we announced that we were going to be going live and talking about this. And so they made sure that we didn't have a reach. Because when he wrote a post on social media about it, which was counter to the pro-convoy narrative, he was put on a 2-day ban on Facebook.
So even though these are the same people who are vilifying the people who are supporting the convoy, they're also banning me for speaking against it in a way that is not on their agenda. Correct? Right. So it's neither are their agenda. Well, the one is their agenda in order to call people and split people up. But by the way, Julie, do you know where I can get a Book of Hours T-shirt?
Where can you get a Book of Hours T-shirt?
I'm wearing one right now. You can go to Book of Hours, book-of-hours.com. I know, I'm very cheesy. And you can click on the link that says store. And you can find this T-shirt and a couple others. We're going to put up more designs eventually, but you can always come back and get those after you get this one, right? So this is the classic Book of Hours T-shirt. I got mine as an American Apparel, but you can get yours as a standard T-shirt as well. We have the red jellyfish, and we have the purple jellyfish as well.
Yeah, go to our website and check it out. It's they're really cool, and people have ordered them, and we appreciate that.
So get
So,
yours today.
Yeah.
All right. Collect them all.
All right. Well, thanks
cool.
you. Thanks a lot for
Yeah,
tuning in, and
yeah.
thank you for your support. And it was great to see some of our patrons and those newer people that started following us, and you hung in there. So thank you for that.
And thank you. Yeah, despite the rough start, and thank you for letting us know what was going on, because I'll tell you, we set things up.
Oh yeah, everything was perfect, and we were ready to go, and then all of a sudden we had no sound.
We hit the go live, and it screwed everything up. So,
So hopefully the sound has come through okay. Please, we're gonna upload this to
Rumble,
as well, and it will live on YouTube
as well as
they
Rockfin.
take it down.
Well, it'll always be on Rockfin. Julie,
that's true. It'll
we'll
always
have Rockfin.
We'll always have Rockfin.
All right. All right. Well, we'll see you next time.
Bye,
by the
guys.
way, check out Tuesday. Dr. Larry Pilevsky will be joining us on Pull Quote. So we'll see you then.
All right.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.
Book of Hours are artists here to empower and embolden your response to the constant negative sound bites that attack your news and social media feeds. In order to continue making the video essays and art you've come to enjoy, we need your support. Make a one-time donation or become a patron. Thank you.